All right, 38 special versus 9mm and complete ballistic test. And what we're working with today is gold dot ammunition, Speer gold dot. This is Speer LE. The 38 special is a 125 grain plus P, and then the 9mm is a 124 grain standard pressure. A lot of people say, well, that's not fair. But the reason why I'm doing this is I'm trying to get as close as possible. You know, most of your defensive 38 special is plus P, and only probably half of your 9mm defensive ammo is plus P. So this is really pretty comparable. So it should be an interesting test, you know, 124 grain versus 125 grain. And we're going to use our 5-inch Smith & Wesson M&P 9 for the 9mm for our service size or duty size barrel, and a 4-inch Smith & Wesson 686 because they have almost identical bullet travel in those guns. And for our short barrel test, the 3.2-inch G2C, Taurus G2C versus our 2-inch Taurus 605. Again, almost exactly the same amount of barrel travel in those guns. So this should be one of the most fair tests we can get with really comparing your average 38 special versus 9mm. You see our bullets in a little bit different shape. We have a little bit larger hollow cavity with our 38 than our 9mm. So we're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. Then we're going to do our clear ballistic test, and this is going to be kind of difficult to do, but I'm going to put 8 rounds in this if I can. What I want to do is the longer barrels and the shorter barrels through our MDF, and then do it without our MDF. So our MDF here, a 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard, typically represents like our ribs and sternum. And typically it takes away about 2 inches of clear ballistics penetration. So we're gonna go through 4 layers of denim, 3 inches of clear ballistics to kind of represent like our pectoral muscle, a 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard into more clear ballistics. And typically I say that anything that kind of ends in this, stops in this first block is usually okay. I won't really consider it over penetration, even though we're at like 19 inches here and the MDF would put it to 21 inches. But when you're talking about that, you know, your pass-through velocity wouldn't necessarily be that high. And then I'm going to do some practical accuracy at my full-size steel silhouette there from 25 yards. And then I'm going to back up to 75 yards, and I have a very legitimate reason for that. Once we get back to 75 yards, I'll share that information. So let's get started with this test. All right, first up we have our 9mm. We have our full-size pistol. This is rated at 1150 feet per second, I believe out of a 4-inch barrel. So let's see how close we get to 1150 feet per second. We should get a little bit more. 1186. 1178. 1182. 1182. 1175, very good and consistent velocity. Let's see how our 38 special and our full-size gun compares. All right, by the way, I'm 5 yards from the target, 4 yards from the chronograph. Next up, we have our 38 special. This is actually not a short barrel though. It's designed for like a 4-inch barrel. And we're rated at 945 feet per second, I believe also in a 4-inch barrel. So let's see how close we get to 945 feet per second. 989. 1019. 1043. 1027. 1017. So really good velocity for a 38 special. Let's move on to our short barrels and see how those will do. All right, 3.2-inch barrel. Let's see how much velocity we lose over that 5-inch barrel. So let's see what we get here. 1085. 1092. 1087. 1074. 1071, so about 100 feet per second lost. Let's see how our 38 special does. All right, 38 special. Let's see how close we get to that 945 feet per second. And our 2-inch barrel. 864. No read. No read. No read. Interesting. I don't know why it's not reading. It probably has something to do with the shorter barrel throwing a little bit of smoke and powder out. So I'll back up a little bit and I'll try to get some more readings. All right, I'm back about 7 yards and I'll see if I can get a reading with this now. 831. 888. 888. I don't know if that was a read. I'll throw that out because it's a little bit off the sensors. 895. All right, so overall pretty good velocity. Let's hit our ballistics gel block and see what we get. All right, first up, let's do our 9mm through our MDF, through our 5-inch pistol, and let's see what we get here. So what we're looking at there is our damage path is at about 17.5, which is a little bit much going through our MDF. So let's take our MDF out and we'll see if we get comparable amount of penetration with just our quote-unquote gut shot. All right, no MDF. We'll go up above that and see what we get. All right, so our damage path is at 20.5 inches. So that's a little bit much. That might just be the barrel length pushing it that far with that much extra energy, but that's a little bit much. Let's see how our 38 Special does. All right, 38 Special through our 4-inch barrel, through our MDF. Let's see how it'll do. All right, interesting. So we only got about 12.75 inches penetration, which would typically be about 14.75 without the MDF. So let's take that MDF out and we'll see how close that comparison is. It's not always exact, so let's see what we get. All right, 38 Special with our gut shot, just through denim and clear ballistics. Let's see what we get here. All right, so arced up, we actually don't have any expansions from what I can tell, but we stopped at 18 inches exactly. So you really can't fault it for over penetration. Our damage is a little bit less than the 9mm, but it's still really good. So even though we didn't get expansion, we got good damage and we got perfect penetration. Interesting. Let's shoot our shorter barrels and see how they do. All right, Taurus G2C through our MDF. After going through 4 layers denim and 3 inches of clear ballistics, let's see how this will do. All right, so that's interesting. It arced down and bullets just resting right there. I'm going to count that as a fine shot, even though it kind of went down and hit that table or that shelf there, because it looks like it went through well and there's expansion. So what we're looking at there is we're at a hair under 16 inches. We have perfect expansion, which would typically be about 18 inches without the MDF. So that's actually pretty good. Interesting. Let me try it without the MDF. All right, with just our clear ballistics shot, let's see what we get here. That is weird. That is a complete pass-through. I didn't hit any existing channels or anything like that. Let me try that one more time, a little bit higher, because that's interesting. I want to see if I can repeat those results. All right, we'll try it again. And we repeated those results. Interesting. That is just so interesting that the MDF gave it really great expansion, but without it did not. Our 9mm expansion wasn't as good, but is more consistent. I mean, our 5-inch barrel is more consistent. So that's really interesting here. And that's what we're seeing here. You know, this is where we impacted with the 5-inch barrel through MDF. And then right here is our 3.2 inch, and here's our 38 special through the MDF. So our 9 millimeters are definitely expanding right away, but without that MDF, that 3.2 inch barrel just struggled. So let's move on to our snub nose right up here and we'll see how it does. All right, snub nose barrel through our MDF. Let's see what we get here. Interesting, because we're not really seeing expansion, but we're seeing really good performance despite not having expansion. And I think that's probably because the bullet nose is a lot wider than that 9 millimeter. So I think even though it's not pedaling back out, it's providing this resistance that's, you know, getting in that hollow cavity and slowing it down. So we're looking at about 12.5, which would typically be 14.5 without this MDF. So let's pull the MDF out and we'll hit it up here. We'll see what we get. All right, 38 special, no MDF. Let's see what we get here. And again, we have the same thing. We're not seeing expansion, but our damage path goes to about 14.5, which would actually be pretty ideal. And we have to look at this damage here, because if the hollow cavity had nothing to do with anything here, we would not see this tearing damage through here. And we're seeing that. We're seeing a really good tearing damage through that clear ballistics. I'm going to try to turn this so we can kind of see that. Here's our short barreled 9 millimeter bullet. But yeah, you know, right there, that very bottom one is that 38 special and that snub nose. It's, you know, it's tumbling right there, probably, maybe not. Either way, that is indicative of hollow point performance, even though our pedals aren't expanded out and showing great hollow point expansion. So let's shoot from 25 yards. We'll see what kind of practical accuracy we get, and then we'll shoot from 75, and I'll explain that once I get out there why I'm shooting from 75 yards. All right, I'm 25 yards from the target. First up, I'm gonna do my full-size 9 millimeter. Go center mass, see what kind of practical accuracy I can get. I'm gonna shoot real slow just to try to get really good accuracy. All right, not bad. Try my 4-inch revolver, see how this does. All right, pretty good except for one flyer. All right, let's try the short barrels now. All right, Taurus G2C, we'll see how this round does in this pistol. I was aiming center mass, but it just kind of wanted to drop down. Let me try our snub nose now. All right, now I'm going to move back to 75 yards and shoot from there with my full-size pistols. All right, I'm back from 75 yards, and the reason why I came back that far is because you always hear this thing, or at least I always heard it, that if you drop from supersonic velocity down to subsonic velocity, it changes your accuracy. It throws your accuracy off. And I thought, I'm going to come out and just try to experiment for myself with something like that, because we're leaving the muzzle, you know, about 1180 feet per second. At 75 yards, we should be at around 1,000 feet per second. So definitely below the speed of sound, which is around 1130 feet per second, something like that. So we're leaving the muzzle supersonic, we're hitting the target subsonic. Will that throw our accuracy completely off? So I'll compare it to the 686 and see if the 686 has significantly better accuracy. If it does, well, maybe. If it does not, well, I don't know. So starting up with our 9mm, let's see what I can get with this. All right, I aimed pretty much center mass. So this is all going to be kind of hard to judge this anyway, because the misses are going to be, you know, on me, obviously. Maybe. We'll see how the 686 does for me. 38 special. All right, let me run a few more rounds here. So I'm going to say I had a roughly the same amount of misses. So, you know, I can't really tell you whether or not, you know, supersonic to subsonic really throws off your accuracy. But what I can say is from a practical standpoint, probably not really. But it was just something I wanted to come out and try. But that's what you get today, 38 special versus 9mm. Overall, I'm going to say, yeah, this probably makes some people mad, but I'm going to say I think the 38 special actually won this one on our ballistic test. It just seemed like it did really well because all the different barrel lengths, even though our expansion was, you know, not great, we had a lot of damage. We did not have over penetration, and it just shoots really well. As where our 9mm, you know, we had mediocre expansion with 2 of the shots, MDF and no MDF, and our 5-inch barrel. We had good expansion with the 3-inch barrel through our MDF, but with no MDF, we had 0 expansion and total pass-through. So we're looking at pretty good overall performance versus just scattered, who knows what's going to happen performance with that 9mm. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.